Hello there. Because last month I started working, it has been kinda difficult for me to be up to date with the multiple shows that I have been watching. I am watching currently two and both of them are in a complicated situation. But there is one show that I was highly anticipating more than any other, and that is a Steel Ball Run. I am a huge fan of JoJo's, and anyone that has seen any content in my channel related with it can totally know it. Every single time that I have talked about it in either short format or random videos, it has been with the biggest praise available. And as such, it's very obvious that I was gonna be excited for the 7th part, that not only is one of the most highly praised in JoJo's, not only is my favorite part of all of JoJo's, but it's also arguably one of the greatest mangas of all time. And as such, we have to talk about it. Now, because this is about the anime, I can only talk about the first episode that just came out. I might talk a little bit later on about other parts of the manga that are way more advanced, but for now, I will stick with the first episode, which was actually fantastic. Oh my god, I love so much the animation of this series. It will never be the best animation, because the style that they decided to go with has always been too manga-esque. Not in the sense of other shows that try to be slideshows or glorified slideshows, but also not a full-on extremely fluid animation, which makes it feel like you are actually watching a lot of times a manga that is actually being animated instead of an anime. That has always been one of the main things about JoJo, whether it's a complaint or one of its pros. But regardless, I absolutely adore it, and they kept that style for this, and they will probably do it for the rest of the season, just like every other season. Now, the second part that I want to talk about is about one of the main things that we as fans were anticipating, either being hyped or mostly scared, which is the horses. For anyone that knows anything about animating horses and no talking about those horses with anime girls that are actually just anime girls with horse ears, you know who I'm talking about, right? The problem with trying to actually animate horses is the fact that it's insanely difficult, because horses, unlike humans, do not have a single set of ankles. It was knees. I do not know where the ankle part came from. The horses have 3 set of knees instead of the regular one that we humans have, which makes it a completely titanic effort in order to try to animate it. And as such, the decision was very clear. Are they gonna do it as a full 2D animation with the huge risk of looking not only extremely clunky, but maybe even increasing the budget by a lot? Or they are gonna make it in a completely 3D animation and it's gonna look way worse. And luckily for us, they kinda seem to fall in the middle. You see, in other shows in which horses have appeared, most of them do not have an issue to animate them because they are not important enough for them to actually try to animate the entirety of it. In shows like Kingdom or Attack on Titan, there's multiple instances in which horses appear, but because those shows have never the focus of the horses and it's just like a way of transportation at that point, it's just either from far behind or in a way that the 3D doesn't look bad or in which they don't have to constantly animate the legs. But in this whole manga anime, we are talking about a horse race, or a race in which a third of the whole show is horse racing, is horses racing, so you cannot evade that type of compromise. But thankfully, they decided to go for the already mentioned in between. There is a lot of different instances in which they just animate the top of the horses instead of animating the entirety of it, and there is a couple of different times in which the 3D is there, and that is most of that, but they put it alongside some of these 2D parts of the horse legs, which look good enough, or very good. Actually, probably very good considering how difficult it is to animate the already mentioned legs of the horses. But overall, I just think that it works. The next one I want to talk about is about the characters. Of course, this is the first episode, so I will not talk in detail about anything of the development because that would be spoilers for the future. But everything related with them looks very cool. Not only the animation looks good, but the colors that they decided for the designs are phenomenal. We already knew about these colors, but looking at them in just a full-on anime is way better than just looking at them from the perspective of a manga. There's also the voice acting, which of course once again is just the first episode, so we cannot say for certain how it's gonna pan out at the end, but for the first episode it is phenomenal. It is how I imagine the characters to sound and even better, and all of them are very good. If there is one thing that JoJo's excels consistently, and not even the biggest haters can deny it, is the voice acting, I think. And it is perfect, still, as usual. But the main part of the character that we have seen is mostly their personalities. And there's mainly two characters, as you can imagine, because there's a couple of them that have not been meaningful. Diego Brando, which is Dio, well, he's not Dio, but you get what I mean. He has not shown his personality at all yet. He is gonna be a much more important part of the show later on, which I don't think that is a spoiler, but he is gonna be, and at that point I think that we will see his development. But for now, we have barely even seen his personality other than the fact that he is a very skilled jockey and very good. But the two main factors in terms of characters are obviously Jairo Zeppeli and Johnny Joestar, which are gonna be the main protagonists and the main job of the story. Starting with Johnny, I think that he is very interesting, and is something that we also see in the manga. In the first chapters of the manga, we see how he is truly a piece of garbage in real life. He is a horrendous guy that is only thinking about himself at every given point. He also is like that in the anime, but he has been toned down a little bit, in my opinion. In the manga, we not only see how truly horrible he is in his backstory, but we also see a much more advanced version of how bad of a person he is in the constant things prior to the start of the race. In the anime, we see him being basically an asshole at least one other time, but I remember that the manga was more extreme, or maybe was the representation, I don't remember, but that's how it felt. But regardless, I think that that is a very great way to introduce the protagonist. I already knew about it, I have read Stillborn Run at least 3 times, but I still was pleasantly surprised in the way that they decided to do it. With him being basically alone and all of that, I think that it was a nice touch. And even though he clearly starts showing that he is gonna grow in the future, he is still not trying to be sorry about the things that he has done that are horrible. And that is a very important thing to take into consideration. But the guy that steals the show is obviously Jairo Zeppeli. Jairo Zeppeli has always been one of the most popular characters since he was introduced, and that is saying a lot considering the fact that every other character has way more time historically in terms of, you know, real life time existing than Jairo itself. Yet, you know, that personality of Jairo, it's very good. He is shown to be this guy that not only is very confident in itself, but he has a lot of things that he wants to do. We do not know why yet, spoilers, but we know that he is decided to do something important. We also see a bunch of his personality. He is really cool in the way that he portrays it. He is not a dumb guy, he is very smart, yet he has an extremely quirky side on him, which is something that is very normal in JoJo's, but in this case, it's a little bit more silly, which I really enjoy, as always with Jairo. But regardless of that, I think that is a very good way to present also who is gonna be the main character alongside Johnny for the long run. He is someone that is not dumb, he is someone that is willing to do anything to win, including harming others, but he is not gonna do harm just for the sake of it. He is gonna give you a choice. He is gonna give you the opportunity to repent, even if he might not be the one that should be saying that, because he is also doing things that should be repented. But let's say that that is just another hint as to what is truly the person called Jairo Seppali that happens on the manga. And a little extra comment on what is the story by itself. The story of the whole race in which everyone goes from San Diego in the southwest of America to New York in the northeast is phenomenal once you watch it completely. Now, this setup by itself is already insane. Not anyone can do something as ridiculous as thinking with a race of this caliber, yet here we are. Not only the idea is very imaginative, but also a couple of the things that we see in the race. Now, the race does not have the thing of being a horse race, even though it technically is. There's still people that decided to use things that are not horses. There is at least 3 that we see immediately in the first chapter. The first is a group of 2 guys that want to use a car in this horse race, which, you know, it might sound like an unfair advantage, but when you consider the fact that there's not such a thing as a gas station in, you know, the 1890s, and there's not such a thing as regular gasoline, period, you understand why something might go wrong. But there's also other 2 that are very funny. The first one is Mr. Abdul, a reference to other character in the whole franchise of JoJo that appear in part 3 called Mohammed Abdul, that is using a camel. Because of course, the Egyptian guy has to use a camel. We do not make stereotypes here, if you can imagine it. And the last one is Sandman, which is using his own body because he wants to run by itself. And that makes it a very fun thing in which we are gonna learn more about him as well because of his unique quirks. And it's gonna be very interesting the way in which they justify all of this. But regardless, once again, that is gonna be part of the later stages. And about the whole story, I don't want to make a lot of spoilers for anyone that is yet to know the full context of this, but let's say that this is gonna go into a very, very wild turn of events, even for the standards of JoJo. In fact, this is arguably, in my opinion, the weirdest story ever conceptualized in manga format. Just because when you think about it, it's like, how? And I can make a lot of comments in different characters like Lucy Steele and how she's gonna be relevant as being the we do not know what yet of Mr. Steele, but we know that she's something of him. But also what is gonna be the importance of Steel and what is gonna be the importance of other characters that we have not seen yet. There's a lot of things that we haven't seen for obvious reasons. This is the first episode of a manga that has 96 episodes. It was chapters. I make a pause to not get it wrong and I still got it wrong, god damn it. It is only the first episode of a manga of almost 100 chapters in which most of the chapters are way longer than the usual 20 pages and go to 60 and sometimes even 70 or 80 pages. So we are yet to see a lot of this. And my prediction is gonna be that it's probably gonna be either the longest series on the entirety of the franchise, or at least it's gonna be the 39 episode long that used to be with part 4, part 5, and I don't remember part 6. I think that it also like that. But regardless, outside of all of that, I wanted just to inform and talk a little bit about this first episode that is making me very excited, and I hope that you enjoy coming in this wild ride that is gonna be part 7 Steelboat Run. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you want more content like this, talking about different shows and maybe going up to date with them, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It will not only help the channel to grow, but it make me realize that you actually enjoy this type of content. And without anything else to explain, once again, I hope that you enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye.